Hi everyone, I'm Shelley and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's topic is Outside the Dome, USOs and Extraterrestrials. Now, if you ask me, this is a pretty fascinating topic and it is a pretty big topic. So I'm hoping that in the limited amount of time that I have, I am able to give it some justice and maybe to just pique your interest a little bit so that you might want to start researching this topic on your own, because that is really the purpose of my videos. It's not to tell you every single detail of any one topic, because let's face it, there are so many topics for us to explore, but it's just to give you the basics and maybe help you to want to maybe go down that rabbit hole if you're so inclined to. Now, as always, I look at these topics through a biblical perspective. So if you are looking at the title of USOs, if you know what they are, and extraterrestrials and thinking, whoa, how that doesn't even fit into the biblical paradigm. Well, I'm here to tell you that I think that you might find by the end of this video that you might be thinking differently, because at this point in time, that is where I am at as well. Now, I do have to say right from the get-go that extraterrestrials, coming from a biblical standpoint, might not be exactly what we're seeing in the Independence Day videos and everything, but they can certainly be classified as extraterrestrials. Anyway, let's just get into USOs in case you don't know what they are. So what are unidentified submerged objects? Underwater UFOs? And it says here, if the vast majority of people think that USOs are probably the flying machines with which our planet, and guys, I'm just reading what it says here, is visited by the beings of the cosmos, few are the ones who have heard of the mysterious objects that cross the underwaters of the lakes and oceans, just like the similar devices that fly in the sky. Does it prefer some UFOs to travel under the water, or are we dealing with a new category of mysterious objects? Two questions that modern science does not get to find answers, those who pass through the depths. And as always, I will leave links in the descriptions for all of the websites that I show you here. But the purpose of me pulling up this one is just to show you what they are. They are basically what you think of as UFOs flying around in the sky. There are USOs, submerged objects, objects seen under the water, sometimes diving into the water, sometimes diving out of the water, and sometimes actually moving through the water, that fit our description of what a UFO would be. Here is another example of that. So we have a leaked U.S. Navy video shows a UFO flying in California and suddenly diving underwater. So there is there's a video on this website that, again, you can click on the link and watch it. And it does show it. It takes a little bit. You have to kind of be patient, but it does show a spherical object flying along, and then it suddenly dives into the water. And what we have here, and if you look, this is recent. So June 30th, 2022, a mysterious object found submerged off the coast of Greece. And if you look at it here, it certainly looks like what we would consider to be a flying saucer. And it says a strange unidentified object was found off the coast of Greece on Google Maps, and social media users have been debating its identity. And then it actually tells you its coordinates so that if you want to go view it on Google Maps, you can do that yourself. So, although unidentified submerged objects certainly don't have the popularity that the ones that people see flying in the sky have, they do exist. And that's what I wanted to be talking about today, because it really goes with the gist of the whole biblical cosmology that I've been talking about recently. And there is a reason that I am going to focus more on the USOs today. One of those reasons being, and I will get into this a little bit later, but one of the reasons being that we remember that there is a solid firmament over the earth. If you are looking at this from a biblical perspective, there is a solid firmament or dome over the earth, and then underneath us we have the great deep, which is waters. And that might give you a little bit of a clue as to what I'm going to get into in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about extraterrestrials from what we would call a biblical perspective. So this is coming from Timothy Alberino's book, Birthright, and I will leave a link to this book in the description box also. And he says, for reasons unwarranted, the term extraterrestrial is anathema in the seminary classroom. However, a simple definition of the word should suffice to exorcise its imagined demons. An extraterrestrial is a being whose provenance is not Earth. Notice that I did not say residence. Provenance is where you come from. Residence is where you reside. It is entirely possible for beings of extraterrestrial provenance to be residing on Earth, as we shall see, a concept which necessitates the defining of another associated term, alien. Due to its inherent ambiguity, the word alien requires context. And I'm just going to flip over to another image of what we typically look at as an alien in this day and age. Now, does this look familiar to you? I'm sure that you've seen it all over the place because this is usually what we would look at as being an alien. And these extraterrestrial race that we are speaking of, they could look like this. I'm not saying that they don't. It's just that that's what we typically think of when we are talking about aliens. But again, we're going to come at this in more of a biblical perspective, and maybe even in the future I will talk about the fact that it's possible that the elder race that fell when Satan fell could have eventually started to look like this over time due to their deterioration because they lost that heavenly estate that they once had. But that's just, again, that's another topic. But let me just continue reading. So, in the cosmological sense, an alien is a foreign being from an extraterrestrial world. However, generally speaking, any non-human being of advanced intelligence may be considered alien to the human species, regardless of its provenance. For example, if we should discover a race of non-human beings inhabiting the interior of our planet, and again, remember Timothy Alberino does believe in the heliocentric model, or a parallel dimension, we would be accurate in describing them as aliens, even though we are essentially co-inhabiting the same space. With our terms thus defined, we may venture the question, do extraterrestrials and/or aliens exist within the biblical paradigm? The answer is unequivocally yes. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul references, and this is also coming from Timothy Alberino's book, references thrones, dominions, principalities, and powers when referring to things created in heaven and on the earth. These terms are indicative of a vast kingdom with many realms. There is a plurality of thrones, a plurality of dominions, and a plurality of principalities. The fact that the morning stars were present to witness the primordial formation of planet Earth presumes a pre-Adamic paradigm. And I did get into this topic. I believe it was in my Biblical Reset video. I'll try to leave a link for that in the description. The pre-Adamic controversy is entirely inconsequential when man is properly positioned within the order of creation. It is perfectly logical to infer that non-human intelligent beings were inhabiting other worlds in the cosmos before Adam was created on Earth. Now, before I lose too many of you when I keep reading about Timothy Alberino talking about planets and the cosmos and everything, I just want to put it out there that this is what I envision when it comes to other realms, other worlds. I am not necessarily thinking of outer space and what we are taught in school. What I am envisioning is puddles, so to speak. So right here, we would have the Earth. This is our realm. And then there are other puddles also. That would be where these other races, the elder race, as Timothy Alberino calls them, could possibly reside. And what I would have to say is that I would add to this photo, though, I believe that they would each have an individual dome over them. Because again, the book of Genesis does speak about the rakia, the firmament, which is a solid object. So this is more of what I envision and not what you're picturing when you hear all of this talk about, the cosmos and the planets and all of that stuff. Now, I just have a few more excerpts from the book Birthright that I'm going to read. And the reason that I am reading these to you is because Timothy Alberino is much more eloquent when it comes to these. And he is actually the one that opened my eyes to the possibility of this. Because before this, I had just been kind of stuck in that Christian tradition of no way, no way, there's only humans. God created only humans. And, the fact is that the Bible is addressing our story here on earth. But that doesn't mean that we have the whole story, because we weren't meant to have the whole story. We didn't need to have the whole story. And so that's what I think a lot of people have issues with. But I'm just going to read some more right now. John, in a vision concerning the end of the age, which we will analyze later, beholds Jesus returning to the earth astride a white horse, with the armies of heaven in train. His head is adorned with many crowns, and his thigh is emblazoned with the title, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. When titles of regency are directly juxtaposed in the text, in this case kings and lords, they often reflect two distinct realities, the terrestrial and the extraterrestrial, the human and the non-human. The terrestrial realm is the domain of the human race, governed by human kings, but other realms more ancient than the earth are governed by the lords or princes of the elder race. Extraterrestrial thrones, dominions, and principalities were appointed by the Son of God, the Prince of Princes, long before the creation of mankind. The pre-Adamic landscape is one of empire. The system of government presented in the biblical narrative is an absolute monarchy. There is a kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God, and a high king who sits on a throne and before whom all tremble and pay obeisance. Other lesser thrones configured in the hierarchy of the empire are occupied by the king's delegates, princes, and regents who do his bidding. The kingdom has a court, a council, and an army. And we've talked about the divine council before. It has counselors, courtiers, couriers, and warriors. There is a royal family and a ruling class. Rebellions are incited by disaffected factions and put down with decisive force. Insurgencies are formed and vie for their own piece of the imperial landscape. In their most fundamental aspects, the visible thrones and dominions of terrestrial governance are reflections of their invisible extraterrestrial counterparts, including and perhaps especially in the aspect of war. The biblical narrative informs us that some angels deliver messages, some engage in warfare, some execute the judgment of God, and some minister to the children of men, but we are never explicitly told who or what exactly they are. And I'm just going to interject here that when it comes to hearing the different classes of angels, there are angels, or they sometimes call them malach or angelos. There are seraphim, there are cherubim, and they are not necessarily the names of the races themselves, but are job descriptions. It tells you what they do, not what they are. And that is almost verbatim of what Dr. Michael Heiser has to say about this subject. Someone else that I've read another book by him also about angels. I will leave that in the description box, because much of what he has to say really does, it jives perfectly with what is written about in Birthright. But anyway, we need to look at those titles as job descriptions and not the names of the races themselves. Anyway, so let's continue on. And this is going to be the last excerpt of this book. And then we're going to get into the whole USO aspect of the topic. The question seems to be left for us to extrapolate. So let's extrapolate. The angels of heaven have a spoken and written language. They keep records, they sing and compose music, they eat and drink, they possess, wield, and assumedly build technology, and they are the subjects of a kingdom, complete with a complex system of government and a standing army. These are the hallmarks of society and culture. It is therefore rational to conclude that the non-human angelic beings depicted in the scriptures are the citizens of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization that predates our own. Mankind did not invent civilization, he inherited it. The benchmarks of a civilized society, sophisticated bureaucracy, social hierarchy, a criminal justice system, refined spoken and written language, technological advancement, military organization, and so forth, were already existent in the universe before Adam emerged from the earth and clay. In truth, we are the beneficiaries of the elder race, the recipients of their societal institutions, and the co-inheritors of their kingdom. We are also the co-inheritors of their condemnation, should we follow in their rebellion. So all of that to bring us back to the idea of USOs, unidentified submerged objects, and what I have really been thinking about. And the reason that I went so deeply into the whole extraterrestrial aspect is because, again, I know that a lot of Christians have a hard time reckoning that there could be another race other than humans. And some would say and angels, but the fact is that the fact that there are angels shows us that there are other races of beings. And again, the Bible was written for us, and it is everything that was pertinent for us. And it doesn't negate the possibility of other elder races that came before us. And I think that more people are realizing that nowadays. But again, that's really why I wanted to talk about that. So here we have another unidentified submerged object, and this is just, it's an image. I'm not trying to say that it's the real thing. It's just to show you what they would look like under the water possibly. But I also showed you this cosmological model here. This is from Logos Bible Software. And again, we talked about the great deep. I had also shown you this photo of the puddles. Now, here are some of my thoughts. I explained to you how I believe that each one has an individual dome. The Bible tells us that there are waters above the earth. It tells us that there are waters below the earth, and I think that it's referring to the great deep that I just showed you. And I think that we can logically surmise that if there are waters above the earth and below the earth, it's very possible that everything outside of the domes could possibly be water. And so it would only make sense that if there were other races that were able to travel from place to place, they would definitely need some sort of vehicle that was able to travel both underwater and through the air once inside the individual dome. Now, the other idea that I had was, is it possible that I think a lot of times when we're coming at this from the biblical perspective and the fact that the earth is a level plane, and with the firmament, a lot of times people have talked about maybe they are using the windows of heaven, the windows of the firmament, to get into the different puddles, the different worlds, the different realms. But my question is it possible that underneath all of these is the great deep? Could the great deep be underneath all of these worlds? And could that be the way that they are traveling from world to world, is under this ice, in the puddles of the abyss? That's another name for it. So rather than coming through the windows of the dome, are they traveling under the ice in the outer realms? You know, some people will call it outer space, and we could call this outer realms because they're not, well, it would be a space. It's a space outside of our earth. It's just not what we, think of when it comes to that topic. So, when we're talking about the unidentified submerged objects, I mentioned how they're often seen coming up out of the water and flying off somewhere. They are seen entering the water and just traveling through the water. And this definitely looks like something traveling underneath the water. The first actual story that I had ever heard of a submerged object was at Shag Harbor. And that is something I don't remember. I saw it on one of those. Remember the shows they used to have where they talked about the unexplained? I saw it on one of those, and it fascinated me because if they are going to travel in the great deep in order to get from realm to realm, then obviously once they get here, come up through the water, and then it would definitely be helpful for them to also have the capacity to fly through the air, which they seem to. So if these races have been here so much longer than we have, it is very likely that they have the technology in order to do these things. So then thinking even further on, I started thinking about the Antarctic Treaty. And I know that a lot of times we look at the Antarctic Treaty and, well, first of all, let's just read what it is. It's an agreement signed by 12 nations in which the Antarctic continent was made a demilitarized zone to be preserved for scientific research. So 12 nations signed a treaty to not militarize Antarctica. Now, we've seen our history. We've seen war after war after war, and we're supposed to believe that they're all going to just merrily come together and agree not to militarize Antarctica. And that's totally fine. But we don't agree on anything else, and we can just blow each other up here. But down in Antarctica, everyone's just going to happily get along and, just be happy about it. I don't know. There's more to the story than that. So a lot of times in our community, we talk about the fact that the Antarctic Treaty is very possible to hide the firmament. Some people believe that there could possibly be giants being hidden in Antarctica, and we don't know. This is all just conjecture, and that's what my whole series is about, is conjecture. But sometimes those conjectures end up being right. So that's what we need to think about. And so what I was thinking is, could this be another reason for the Antarctic Treaty? Is it possible that there are bases in Antarctica where these USOs are coming in and out of our realm, of what we call the Earth? Could this be a place where they kind of go up and go down? And, is it possible that our governments know about it? And I would say, yes, I definitely do, because we know that the government knows a lot more about a lot of things than what they let on. And this is just one more of those things. So it's just, another possibility for what they're hiding in Antarctica. They could be hiding multiple things in Antarctica. We have also seen photos of what look like pyramids in Antarctica. Again, there could be giants down there. They could be hiding the firmament. We've talked about the sky ice in another one of my videos. And now we have this idea that could there be openings into the great deep where maybe these USOs are traveling? I don't know. But again, as with all my videos, it was certainly fun to think about it. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.